Arizona's first news conference in 308 days. And when asked by a reporter whether he would support a boycott against Arizona because of the state's new immigration law, here's what the president said.
I've indicated that I don't approve of the Arizona law. I think it's the wrong approach. I'm the President of the United States. I don't endorse boycotts or not endorse boycotts. That's something that the private citizens can make a decision about.
All right, so first the president reminded Americans that he's against the Arizona immigration law. And then he says a boycott is not up for him to decide. What gives? We have Fox legal analyst Peter Johnson Jr. here with his analysis. So, Peter, but isn't that fair? He doesn't like the law, but he's not going to tell people to boycott the state.
No, it's not fair. What the president is doing is abdicating two things: his legal responsibility and his moral responsibility. A, he knows full well that there's precedent under federal law and under constitutional law for the Arizona law. B, he knows full well that states, counties, cities engaging in that kind of regulatory boycott against a state is illegal and unconstitutional and violates the Interstate Commerce Clause.
That's interesting, but what about what he said about the public has their own right? It's their prerogative. You can go there or you can not go.
The public has their own right, but we elect a president to exercise not only a capacity to tell us what the law is, but to exercise moral leadership. And so when you have a president who tacitly endorses a boycott, he is engaging in the kind of sectionalism that destroyed the United States in the 19th century. We cannot have a situation where people are ostracized, isolated, demonized, divided, and marginalized by virtue of their beliefs. And to say, I don't have the capacity and I'm not going to get involved as a former community organizer, I'm not going to get involved with Los Angeles and San Francisco and California and San Diego and other states and dozens of cities and counties that are considering an economic boycott of Arizona. That tears the shreds the Constitution. That tears at the threads that bond us together as 50 states. And to say, well, that's a private choice, that's a cop-out. And that's a failure of moral and legal leadership, especially when the president knows, going to the Arizona law, that there is a U.S. constitutional case, the DeCanis case, that upheld states' rights, that upheld the state police power in doing exactly what Arizona has done. Arizona passed its own immigration law in 2007. That's passed federal court muster. So what's going on?
Well, I heard it as pure political speak. I endorse a boycott, nor can I not endorse a boycott. It's that saying, whatever the meaning of is. But you think that he's saying something between the lines there.
Well, I think it's obvious. I think he's for the boycott, and as a former community organizer, it's right out of the Alinsky playbook. Pit people against each other, divide and conquer. If he has the capacity to speak out against it and bring us to a unifying point on this debate. Boycotts have been used over history to great effect, to good effect with regard to the civil rights movement and boycotts in the South to ensure equal race relations in the United States, but they've been used by governments to ill effect. And I think of the 1933 boycott by the Nazi regime, in which they governmentally regulated a boycott against all Jewish businesses. I'm not saying that this is the same thing, but I'm saying that government can act in nefarious, bad ways that bring bad consequences to an entire nation.
Got it.